Taking the NCLEX exam, an informative speech by Kayla Wiggins. What is the NCLEX? The NCLEX is an exam known as the National Council Licensure Examination. It's a standardized exam that each state board of nursing uses to determine if the candidate is prepared for entry-level nursing. It uses computer adaptive testing, also known as CAT, which is a technology that merges computer technology with modern measurement theory to increase the efficiency of the exam process. CAT, therefore, reduces the number of easy items that high ability candidates receive, reduces the number of hard items that low ability candidates receive. Therefore, in theory, the harder the exam taker thinks the test was, the better they probably did. That's often why you hear a lot of NCLEX passers say, "Oh my goodness, that test was so hard. I had so many multiples." Every time you answer a question, the computer then selects another question from the pool that it thinks you have a 50% chance of answering correctly. This way, the next item should not be too easy or too hard. Each question you answer increases the computer's ability to estimate your ability. So you just want to pass, if it was only that easy. Unlike a normal exam, where if you answer a certain percentage of questions right, then you obtain a certain score, the NCLEX uses the CAT once again to determine if the RN will follow your name. There are multiple ways to pass and multiple ways to fail, but at the end of the day, if the computer's not 95% certain that you have the ability to be an entry-level nurse, you will not pass. This does not mean that you have to answer 95% of the questions right, though. Theoretically, you could answer only 50% of the questions right and still pass the NCLEX. Name one other time in nursing school that a 50%'s been good enough to pass. Everyone starts off in a neutral state, neither passing nor failing. Every time you answer a question correctly or incorrectly, it moves your position on the line. If you answer the first question incorrectly, it'll move you below the line of passing and will give you a less challenging question. If you answer it correctly, you will move above the line of passing to a more difficult question. You can move between this line of passing and failing multiple times throughout the test and still be able to pass, but that also means you're still able to fail. The maximum length exam rule. This rule comes into play when you've answered all 265 questions allotted by the exam, yet the computer's still unable, with 95% accuracy, to determine if you pass or fail. The rule states that if your last question was above the passing standard, then you pass. If it was below the passing standard, you fail. It looks at the question and that question alone. Usually, only people who are very close to the line will go all the way to 265 questions. There's also a run out of time rule, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's when you run out of time before reaching the maximum amount of items, and the computer's still not able to decide with 95% certainty whether you pass or fail. So it uses this rule. If you've not answered the minimum amount of items, you fail. If you've answered at least the minimum amount of items, the computer reviews your last 60 ability estimates. If your last 60 ability estimates were above the passing standard, you pass. If you drop below the passing standard even once during your last 60 items, you fail. This doesn't mean you must answer the last 60 items correctly. Each ability estimate is based on all the previous items you've already answered. So, you're ready to sign up. Registering for the NCLEX can be a test in itself. This process is pretty tedious, but it goes a little something like this. First, you submit an application for licensure/registration to the Board of Nursing where you wish to be registered. Once the boards receive the required information from you and your school, they will send you an ATT, which stands for Authorization to Test, which will include your personal code to register for the NCLEX exam. Then, you can register. You'll pick the location, time, and date of when you would like to take the NCLEX. Your ATT is good for 365 days from the time you receive it. The cost for the U.S. licensure is $200. This is for the test only. There may be other fees determined by your state board of nursing. There are no refunds given, so make sure you show up when you say you will, where you say you will, and how you say you will. On exam day, be prepared. Bring your photo ID and any other information that will be required. Dress comfortably. It can be a long test. Hats, scarves, gloves, and coats must be left outside the testing room. You should arrive early. They generally say about 30 minutes. If you're more than 30 minutes late, you will not be able to test and you will not be able to get a refund. In order to test, your photograph, signature, and a palm vein scan will be obtained. You may not bring any paper or writing utensils into the test. An on-screen calculator and a dry erase board will be provided. You have up to 6 hours to complete the exam, including a short tutorial on taking the exam, plus 2 optional breaks. The breaks are scheduled at the first 2 hours into testing, and at the 3.5-hour mark, once you submit an answer, you will not be able to return to the question. At the end of the exam, you will take a short computerized survey. Once this is completed, you will raise your hand and wait for the staff to dismiss you. So you took it. Now what? Then comes the hard part, waiting. The official results will be made available from the Board of Nursing. Luckily for those in Ohio, the Board of Nursing is usually pretty quick about results. They're usually posted 24 to 72 weekday hours after the exam is taken. This is just a rough estimate based on my own personal experience, as well as some other nurses I know. If you pass, congratulations, you're now an RN. If you fail, remember, it's not the end of the world. You're able to retake the exam after a 45-day waiting period. The NCLEX is an incredibly hard test, but most can agree that you would not just want anyone taking care of your children's spouse or parents when they're sick. The NCLEX keeps the patients and the nurses safe, and because of that, it's a necessary evil. Thank you.